Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the live stream. My name's Matt Bailey. I'm the National Ambassador for the Scotch Malt Whisky Society here in Australia, and I like to go live as often as possible to bring you all the goodies that the Society's up to learn more about whiskey, to discover more about how to enjoy whiskey and all the facets that go into great whiskey. So I really appreciate you tuning in along with me, having a bit of fun with it, tasting a few things. Hashtag Bailey's here and hashtag where is Bailey? It's 7 o'clock. I'm right here, and it is not a Monday rant because I have nothing to rant about. Everything's so good at the moment. Our members are great. The whiskey's great. Really, anything that's worth ranting about, it hasn't really sort of struck me as really rant worthy lately. Been in too good a mood. Let's put it that way. Hashtag Bailey is here, right here. It is 7 o'clock. That is right. And evening to Gary, evening to Mark, evening to everyone coming in. Looks like a great one tonight. Thank you, Jesse. Great to see you as well. Thanks for tuning in. You can, of course, watch this on our Facebook group, our Facebook page, or on YouTube live right now. And we like to go live at around 7 or 7:30 every single night. It's 7 tonight, and it's 7:30 tomorrow night live with a special guest, Krishna Rajalingam from Basic Chocolates is going to join us. We're going to talk about chocolate and whiskey pairings. Wednesday night is, of course, our weekly roundtable with Alex Dallenberg, Scott Fitzsimons, Andy Milne, and special guest. And myself, obviously. And then Thursday night will be a special preview night for one of the other whiskeys in Outturn coming up. And then Friday, there'll be no live stream because I'm presenting a live tasting, which will be our .1s event in Sydney. Lots of words. Thank you so much, everyone, again, for tuning in. Like I say, tonight we're talking about Cask 5.72 Scaramango. There it is. A 29-year-old premium bottling in the November-December double festive outturn. There's Outturn. Now, Outturn for the November-December issue has three distinct changes. One, it's a double issue, so it has heaps of bottlings and heaps of goodies in it. Number two is it's a double issue for November-December. Number three, we're sending, I think I said 1 and 2 are basically the same thing. Number two then is it's an A4 sized edition, and we're sending you all a copy of this. So if it hasn't arrived in the mail already, it will. Keep an eye on your mailbox. Even if you don't normally get printed copies of Outturn sent to you, we will send you a copy of this one. Why does it have my name in the bottom corner there? I don't think that's meant to happen. You know what? Boom, there, it's gone. Hey, so you all know who I am by now. Nice to meet you all. Nice to thank you again for tuning in. Tonight, we're actually exploring a Lowland whiskey in the premium livery, a 29-year-old single cask whiskey from Distillery 5. Hasn't reached Tassie yet, Mark. It will, don't worry. It should be there, I'd say, this week, definitely, which is plenty of time still to read it ahead of the 13th. I will just bring up my screen here, my other screen for a second, just to show you what I'm talking about. Well, where are we? Here we are. Okay, so there. No, one thing at a time. There's the cover of Outturn, the one I was just holding up. It is coming. It's in the mail for all of you. And mark the date. I'm going to put it right there. Put it in your diaries now. It's Friday, the 13th of November. Share the joy. This is all about our festive Outturn, about bringing something special to our members, of course. And but tonight is all about 5.72 special release Scaramango. So I even wrote in Outturn here, as you can see on the screen. When was the last time you saw an expression from Distillery 5 with this much age on it? Now, this is a distillery that you don't see too much in the way of extended age statements. Core range is mostly no age statement from these guys, mostly. Pour just a little dram of that, just a wee taste of that. So this is 5.72 Scaramango. So I'll bring it up so you can all see it on the screen in just a moment. But there it is, special release for tonight. I've poured a dram of that into the glass. I am going to let that sit in the glass and let that open up just for a moment. Some of the comments coming in, I'm just going to grab them here. Even I managed to get the Outturn today, and I usually can expect a country delayed delivery time. Jesse, yeah, I mean, Australia Post works in weird and wonderful ways. Sometimes they surprise us, and everything arrives nice and on time, and bottles are being delivered within a day or two of them being ordered. You can't pick it with Australia Post, especially this year. They've been quite thrown about by COVID, and the number of businesses, I think, needing to take their business entirely online and deliver products that way, especially businesses that previously didn't. And even the ones who did are ramping up with all that stuff, of course. So Australia Post have been slammed this year. So can't ever predict what they're doing. Sometimes an Outturn that we think will arrive on time. It arrives 2 weeks after Outturn's already been. That's the way the way it goes sometimes. When is Unfiltered coming out? I swear I've missed them because of the year that was 2020. I can't see who's written that comment, but I can tell you the answer. Unfiltered has moved to a monthly publication that we're going to send you each month instead. It's a digital-only publication with a yearly issue, which we'll see at the end of this year later on. James says, mine came to post today. That's awesome news. Good to hear. Give it another week or two. I hope not, Gary. I really hope that Tassie gets their physical outturns very shortly. Yeah, all digital now. Mark's right. There's been 2 unfiltered since. We're very hard at work on the November edition, which I think will be out very shortly. We're only a couple of days away. Nick Husick says, I remember trying the new make of Distillery 5, which was really delicious. From memory, they add to barrel at a really high BV. Nick, you're right. They add to barrel at 81%. I was going to talk a little bit more about this distillery as we go along tonight. Not yet in SA, but that's all right. It will show up, I'm sure. We only just sent them last week. It literally was just sent. So if it hasn't arrived today, keep an eye on your mailbox. Maybe tomorrow, maybe Wednesday. And Jesse says, weird and wonderful or woeful and wicked. They've done amazing work given the conditions. Exactly. Jesse, I'm not chastising Australia Post at all. Sometimes they do frustrate the hell out of me, I'll be honest. And other times I'm extremely grateful. But overall, I'm mostly grateful for them that we can have such a service. I've poured a dram of 5.72. For those playing at home, we're trying something from Distillery 5. And I'm just going to bring up some images of the distillery here so we can all have a look at it. There are some unique aspects of this distillery that I want to touch on tonight. I mean, take a look at that. There you go. So we've got fairly traditional-looking maturation going on there, stacked only 3 high, Dunnage warehouse style right there. And there you've got the triple stills. And you can see them. They've changed. They've updated a little bit since that photo was taken. And I want to talk a little bit more about this release as we go along tonight. Like I said, I've poured a little bit into the glass, but let's talk a little bit about this distillery whilst we're here as well. Mark Teague puts it right there. Distillery 5, all triple distilled. Yes, there are a couple of unique things about this distillery. One that I love. This is the things that I love. One, it is all triple distilled. It's the only distillery that I know of in Scotland. Sorry. Actually, no, it is the only distillery in Scotland that entirely triple distills their output. There are some distilleries that do partial triple distillation. There are some that do it, have done it for different runs of different things. These guys do it exclusively. So it's unusual. The way that they do it, however, is a little bit interesting. So the wash still operates as per normal, as per a wash still, but the spirit coming in from the intermediate still is split into 2. Yep, and with only the high strength heads of the spirit are being carried forward for the final distillation. So the low strength tails are then mixed in with the next distillation from the wash still. It's a little bit complicated, but it works for them, and it's what they've always done. It is also worth remembering that triple distillation used to be the standard across the lowlands. It's not so much anymore. I mean, distilleries like Bladnoch were triple distilled for ages. I mean, ages. There was a period where they weren't, and then they were again, and then they weren't. They're not now. Lots of modern changes happening over at Bladnoch, though. But this Distillery 5 has always been triple distilled to the best of my knowledge. It was founded around the year 1800. Now, if you ask them at the visitor center what year was the distillery founded, they won't say 1800. They'll say 1817 or something like that. So it was legally whiskey, of course, in 1817, but there was distillation happening on that site, and it was called the Duntocka Distillery as early as 1817, when it was illegally distilled, as in they were finally paying taxes on the spirit they were making. And then it was bought in 1834, and it's spent the better half of a century changing hands constantly, this distillery. It was then in 1941 that German warplanes dropped some bombs nearby, which caused a stream of whiskey of whiskey on fire to stream into the local river. And they've made a pond at the distillery of the crater of where one of the bombs hit. But it's a cool piece of it's a part of their history now. And it's been through all sorts of wars and all sorts of things, and it's still there today. It was bought by Stanley Morrison in 1984, and then is today part of Beam Suntory Group. Now, the fact that it's triple distilled is very unique. The other thing that's very unique about this distillery that I love, which is wildly uncommon, but does happen, is that they are all the spirit they make at Distillery 5 all goes into single malt. So let's just put that in perspective. Some distilleries like Glenkeith, like Linkwood, like Longmorn, pretty much all, or maybe not Longmorn, but those first two at least, pretty much all go into blending. And when I say pretty much all, I mean 99% of it goes to blends. And that's the way the distillery was constructed. That's the way they run. That's the way distilleries like 80, Glen Spey work. There's distilleries like that, which we've talked about before on this stream, that are fascinating distilleries, but all of their output goes into blending, and that's fine. And they exist for creating blends for brands like Johnny Walker, J&B, Shivers Regal, Ballantine's, what you name it. There's all these blends out there, even lower shelf ones that we don't see too many of in Australia. Things like Teachers, Black Douglas, VAT 69. I don't even know if that's still a thing. Is VAT 69 still made? Anyway, Hanky Bannister, stuff like that, and Label 5, things like that, where these distilleries are pretty much supplying the blended industry, because blended whiskey, whether we like it or not, is still 85-ish%, or maybe more, 85, 88, maybe even as high as 90% of all Scotch whiskey consumed worldwide is blended Scotch whiskey. And I don't mean blended malt, I mean blended Scotch whiskey, as in grain and malt. So this is the fact that this distillery, Distillery 5, all goes into single malt is uncommon. There are a few distilleries elsewhere in Scotland that also do this. Off the top of my head, I think these days, and that this is changing, constantly changing as distilleries change their focus or try and introduce their own brands, because this is something that society has an amazing history with, that I've had to do a lot of research in, and I've really enjoyed researching, because there's some crazy stuff out there. So a good example would be something like Springbank, Kilchoman. There's quite a few. I mean, Brooklady, I can safely say. There's quite a few distilleries now that, not quite a few, I mean, just a handful of distilleries that pretty much only produce for single malt whiskey. And that's fine. And that's fine. They don't have any blending contracts. They don't produce enough to supply blenders. And the demand of their single malt is such that they don't need to. You need to have a strong single malt brand if you want to do that, because remembering, you're cutting off 80% of the whiskey market straight away. Question from a user here who asks, does Distillery 5 blend for Singleton or something else, or blended Irish being triple, or is 5 only single malt? I think I've just been covering that. Sorry. It is only single malt. They just produce a single malt at this distillery, which blows my mind. So they've got obviously a massive output of spirit that they produce, but it's all just for their single malts, not for blending. So I can't remember off the top of my head. I did have their I had a little note here of their capacity. Actually, this isn't even a not even a plug, but I do have it here. The Malt Whiskey Yearbook, thoroughly recommended. In fact, Andrew Durbridge, our cellar master, just did a little write-up on Whiskey and Wisdom of this book. Well worth checking it out. In fact, if you've not read Andrew's blog yet, actually, that's not fair calling it a blog. It's far better than that. It is. I mean, a blog sounds like, the word blog here sounds dirty, doesn't it? It's like, because bloggers, I don't know. We don't like to talk about bloggers because it's like, maybe that could be a Monday rant. Anyway, his whiskey website, his I'll call it informative site of absolutely meticulously researched topics, some far more in depth than others as well, which are really worth digging into. He just did a nice smaller write-up on the Malt Whiskey Yearbook. I thoroughly recommend it. I think I started picking it up in 2014, 2013, somewhere around there. I'm looking that way because there's a shelf of books over there. And I think I can see back as far as maybe 2012, 2013, something like that. When I first started buying it, because it's written and edited by Ingvar Rond. He writes it every year and does a great job of it. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about that, but I was going to just quickly check my capacity number because I was going to get it wrong. 2 million litres. So not a big distillery, still pretty big. Still twice the size of even the biggest distillery in Australia. So that's some perspective for you right there. More than twice the size of the biggest distillery in Australia. And it's little old Auchentoshan. So So they're constantly growing. They are growing the distillery as well at the moment. It even says here that they're growing the range, growing the distillery, doing things like bartenders, malts, different packaging, all sorts of things. Mostly no age statement though. Mostly no age statement. The things like dark oak and bartender series and American oak. We don't do that at the society if we can avoid it. There have been times where we've done NA on the age statement, which is mostly to do with some Taiwanese whiskey that was too good not to bottle, but we had to play by their rules, which is fine. This is a 29-year-old single cask, as I've got on the screen. I don't need to hold it up. You can see it on the screen here as well. A 29-year-old single cask. So distilled 3rd of September, 1990. It's a lowland. It's a refill ex-bourbon hogshead. Now, let's take careful note of what it says in the front here. I'm going to bring that up nice and close. Unlike any other example of this distillery, just think about that for a second. If you think you know this distillery, you perhaps don't. So unlike any other example of this distillery, a discombobulation of metals, oils, medical ointments, soot, and spicy old Irish accented muscle. Amazing. Very, very cool. Very, very cool to see that kind of attention to detail and their attention to wanting to make great whiskey. And that, like, even those tasting notes sound really exciting. They sound exciting to me. So that's what I've poured. I've poured a dram of it here. There's two ways to get to taste this whiskey. One will be at our festive party, our garden party, which is coming up in Sydney on the 12th of December. That's a little over a month away. It's coming up, though. It'll sneak around the corner. Tickets are on sale now for that one on our website. Ardna Merkin said they're designed not to go into blends too. But Mark, that's quite a new thing. I want to touch on that for a second. That's quite a new thing, really, when you think about it. That's quite smaller, newer distilleries are designing their distilleries around single malts. They absolutely are. And that's why, Daft Mill and Ballandalloch and Ardna Merkin, all these newer realms of just Port of Leith Distillery, all these new distilleries are designing their product around a brand. This is something that, historically speaking, is quite new, which is why Pip Hills, the founder of the society, thought it was hilarious that he was actually going to these distilleries, picking the eyes out, and they had no idea because they didn't have a single malt brand. I've talked a bit before about how the society was first off the rank to bottle a Longmorn, was the first off the rank to ever bottle a single malt Brora and a single malt Glenrothes. There's so many examples of where the society came first, and we were bottling single malts, albeit single cask as well, but single malts before these distilleries didn't have a brand for it. And many of them still don't, as we know. You can't walk into a Dan Murphy's and buy a Glen Spey, but you can in Festive Outturn. Would you like that plug? That wasn't intentional, but it's true. Glengyle too, I suspect, way too small output, Mark, way too small an output to worry about them as well. Any events for 2021 in Melbourne, or is it too far in the future? That's a little bit off topic, but I'll answer it. Yes, we are looking at events in 2021 in Melbourne. Of course we are. We want to look after our members in Melbourne. We want to do great events with great whiskey that we can actually enjoy. We have to do it when it's safe, when we're allowed to, when we can have a venue. All these things have to add up. And let's be honest, with the flight restrictions and whatnot, it'll probably be your fantastic state manager, Alex Moores, hosting it before you see me. But that's okay. Alex is fantastic at what he does. So 5.72. I've been talking for about 20 minutes, I can see, but I've just had this sitting in the glass. 57.1%, and I exactly know what it means on that bottle label of unlike any other example of this distillery. When you taste young spirit from Distillery 5, American oak, the 12-year-old, dark oak, spring oak, whatever they want to call it. Most of their no-age statements, I suspect, are quite young. Don't quote me on that. They could be old spirit in there, but most of them are. Like the American oak is quite young. When you taste those spirits, you get quite a citric note, I find, on this distillery. Quite a like freshly squeezed orange note, which is fun. It's fascinating. There's a lovely note in there. I know this distillery has been the butt of some jokes in over time, and pardon the pun, not butt as in butt, a butt of jokes, not with sherry butt of jokes. Anyway, but this is I think trying something with this kind of age on it from this distillery is quite special. It's a very complex nose. There's so many things picking up on here. I'm getting that Palmer violets. I see what it means by medical and oily. quite almost a tiny bit metallic, but in a nice way though. Like the bonnet of an old car kind of metallic, that warmth of an old car. Wow, Scaramango. Actually, it's funny. I do, maybe it's the wording, but I do get a hint of that sort of like mango skin, tiny bit of like vapor rub, tiny bit rummy as well on the nose. Bit of mint tea, bit of like tea leaves, dark tea leaves. That's very lively on the palate. 57.1 after 29 years. Great question from Mark here. Oh, wait a second. Ooh. Agave note on the palate. Tea tree oil. This is lovely. This is lovely spirit. Very graceful, but very lively for its age. What happens to whiskey when it gets this kind of age? For most of it, most of the time, it just gets very stately, very lots of oak, lots of soft oak, stately notes, old and dignified kind of notes, like dusty old Chesterfields, old bookshelves, things like that. This is in the spicy and dry flavor profile of a 29-year-old. We've had 21-year-old whiskeys in old and dignified, and a 29-year-old whiskey in spicy and dry. Flavor profile and age are not linked. Flavor profile and cask type are not linked. We've had some great refilled bourbon hoggies in deep, rich, and dried fruits, not just sherry casks or port casks or whatever, or musket casks. So, yeah. Great question from Mark. So, if 57.1% after 29 years, fair to guess it went into the cask as uncut new make as well above 70. That is a very fair guess, Mark. Their still strength, the spirit that comes off the still after the third distillation run at this distillery, comes off the still around 81%. So it is fair to assume they possibly filled at 69.9, 70%. A lot of distilleries do. What they were doing in 1990, however, is another story entirely. Who knows? I don't know. I can't find that kind of information out. What seems to be the and it's gone bottles for this Outturn this month? Jesse, that's a good question. I'm going through each bits and bobs from Outturn over the next 2 weeks on the live stream. There's going to be some bottles that are going to go very fast. We know that. I think we've all sort of spotted them. I think this will be a bit slower, but I don't know. I mean, it's hard to tell. People do want something nice on the shelf for Christmas, which is really nice. I've given 51.18 my personal pick because it's it's fantastic, and I think the Vaults Collection 70.40, which I can do a full review on as well if you wish. But I think it's going to be some really popular things coming through. Jay Hode says, just pulled myself some new acquaintance. New acquaintance. 10.188, somewhere in that code. An old style sherry in the Festive Outturn recommend. Old style sherry. Not too many old style sherries in this Outturn. However, there are some old whiskies. And I can't recommend 70.40 enough. I know it's a pretty penny on the ticket for it, but it's one of the more old school, vibrant Highland whiskies I've had in a long time. Unbelievable. Good timing for a Bond-themed bottle name, too. The Man with the Golden Gun villain. Rest in peace, Sean Connery. Yes, indeed. A dram for Sean. And the name of the whiskey that sounds a little Bond-esque tribute to Sean Connery. Yeah, there you go. Scaramango. I also noticed the name, but Roger Moore played Bond in that one. There we go. Anyway, so this is, like I say, it's unlike anything I've ever had. Tea tree oils. Like I said, there's old tea leaves. It's quite muscular though. Now, here's the question. Will it hold up to a drop of water? Does this old whiskey hold up to a drop of water? As I've said before, young ex-bourbon whiskey, almost always. Sherried whiskey, I tread carefully, if at all. Old whiskey, almost never. However, I do this for your benefit so that I can try this and I can let you know whether to bother or not. A decent dash. It is 57.1%. If this was sitting at 44.2 or something, I don't think I would. Ooh, wow. Drop of water actually gets far more tobacco leaf straight away. old damp cigar. I think it's showing the age a bit better with a drop of water, actually. I'm going to go with absolutely add water to this one. That just got a whole lot better. Everything just opened up. Floral on the palate now. Much longer on the finish as well with a few drops. That's something else. That is something else entirely. That's good fun. Where is the line between young and old whiskey? Ooh, that's a bit of an existential question, isn't it, Lachlan? What is the line between young and old whiskey? Okay, well, you know what? If I was being as objective as possible with that question, I'd say the line is kind of like a lot of distilleries, and this is a very broad statement, so take this with a grain of salt. A lot of distilleries in Scotland have their sweet spot somewhere in the teenage years. So I'd say a lot of them have that sort of between 13 to 17-year-old whiskies where that's their maturation sweet spot. It doesn't apply for all distilleries. Some behave very differently. Some perform much better at a younger age. Some perform much better at an older age. However, and some distilleries actually have, I would say, the versatility to work at every age. Glengrand, Glenfarclas, I'd say those two distilleries spring to mind straight away that can do very good 5 and 50-year-old whiskey. However, some distilleries, I think, excel at older ages and some excel at younger ages. But the sweet spot for many is in that sort of mid-teenage bracket. So I'd safely say anything over a 14-year-old whiskey is an old whiskey. Anything, or maybe over 17 years old is old. So it's a very, 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 very grey zone. But let's be honest, a 3 or 4 or 5 or 6-year-old whiskey is young whiskey. And a 21, 25, 30-year-old whiskey is old whiskey. And age, as we've talked about before, age does not guarantee quality. It just guarantees age. And the transparency is what we put on the bottle, which is really important. Water will reveal wonders in smoky whiskeys, especially where a higher proof is involved. It will, Jesse. It's a really good point. You actually get a lot of those lovely old wood sugars in those kind of whiskeys when you add a few drops of water to smoky whiskey. So you can get some wondrous things there. But again, if I was drinking something like the 29.257 in Outturn, which I will do a preview of as well, don't worry. Where are we? Special release, Tall, Dark, and Mysterious. If I was drinking that one, which is a 21-year-old single cask from Distillery 29 in Islay, it doesn't need any water. Trust me on that one. It's 55.5%. But however, going back to this 5.72 in the spicy and dry flavor profile, an underrated flavor profile in my opinion. No, J-Ho, it's a really good question there. Water to a 29-year-old. Was this a fresh crack bottle tonight? It was not freshly cracked tonight. It's only got a pinch taken out of it, however. It's only got maybe 100 mils taken out. It's only been open maybe 2 weeks. But it surprisingly, I said I would do it so that I could tell you whether it works or not. I'm telling you right now it does. It absolutely does. I never thought that adding water to a old whiskey of this caliber would normally destroy it. It absolutely would. Adding water to old whiskey will just start to tear it apart, and all those lovely flavors just sort of get lost in the ether. I don't recommend adding water to old whiskey often. Everyone who's just tuned in, I can see quite a few people jumping in, which is great. We are having a taste of something from Outturn, which is 5.72 Scaramango. Unlike any other example of this distillery, is absolutely bang on the money, I would agree. It is unlike anything from this distillery. A, I'll be honest, I find the core range of this distillery a little bit underwhelming. And B, I've only really tasted younger examples of this distillery, bar one that I had recently that was fantastic. But the younger examples from this distillery are often quite citric, as I was saying before, like squeezed orange kind of notes. That's great. And yes, hashtag spicy and dry. It's great flavor profile. There's actually, Lachlan, you had a great thread going on our Facebook group. Great thread going on our Facebook group the other day about what are your top 3 flavor profiles. Some of the interesting responses coming out of that. And I think as your palate develops over time, those profiles that you tend towards do change. And that's a good thing. So I'm going to enjoy the rest of this. In the meantime, I'm going to bring up what else I need to talk about. Something else I'm going to preview in the next coming days is our new membership kit. It is the new welcome kit for members joining the society, or even if you're already a member, you can grab one of these. I'm going to show you this in more detail and a full breakdown, a full teardown, if you like. Pull it apart, show you how it all works. That photo was taken with COVID responsible distancing from other people on the beach. Don't worry. and then of course, I was going to say, if you're based in Sydney, I'm sorry for everyone watching who's not in Sydney, but if you're based in Sydney and you want to come to our garden Christmas party, tickets are up now. It comes with a packed lunch. It comes with all your whiskey, and it comes with the whole society experience. And tickets are $69. It's a steal. I recommend coming along. Bring some friends along. It's all just guests of members can come at member rate, and that's coming up on the 12th of December, Saturday the 12th in the afternoon. The only reason it won't go ahead is if it's pouring with rain. Even if the grass is a little bit damp from the day before, we're still going ahead, of course. So this is all very exciting. And then, of course, tomorrow night I'm talking with Krishna Rajalingam from Basic Chocolates, who he's doing our whiskey and chocolate pairings for the ultimate whiskey and chocolate pairing evening, the virtual tasting. There's enough whiskey and enough chocolate in those packs for two, so you can grab one of those packs. They're $129. That'll be on sale this Friday. It's a week before Outturn goes. And that was all I wanted to really touch on tonight. Comment from J Hodes. Well, I think that would enough time to settle. Fair enough. I add water to every new bottle I get just in case. Anyway, normally kills a lot of whiskey, and if they lose that vibrancy, it kills a lot of whiskey and they lose that vibrancy. Older whiskey is a delicate beast. Old whiskey is quite a delicate thing. And they often have these lovely, lovely nuance to the flavor, this lovely sort of soft nuance to the flavor. Sorry, there's a helicopter outside. It's quite low. Maybe they finally found me. So this is but you add water to it and it often just deteriorates, falls apart. You may as well just be drinking water, and it's a real shame. So I always say with old whiskey, almost never. But I try it so that you don't have to. And if it didn't work, I'd say it didn't work. In this case, it did. I didn't add too much, just a small dash. What a warm welcome kit this kit would be. Yeah, it's such a nice kit. I can't wait for you to see it in person, Jesse, or for everyone to see this in person. I'll do a full review of it. I've got one in the office. I'm going to do a full review of it. In fact, I've been trying to hide it off camera now for about a good month, and we haven't been able to reveal it just yet, but I'm so glad it's in Outturn, and I'll show you a full review of what it looks like, how it works, and how it is basically the perfect I'd say, beach. It's a summer whiskey pack. It's one that you take with you. It's your adventure pack with the society, and those who own it will be able to get refills off us of the bottles inside. We're not quite there yet with that part, but we will soon. So it's all in Outturn there. And Taz allowed to fly to Sid from 611. Well, that's exciting for you, Mark, but I'm more excited about getting to Taz, not coming from Taz. So I hope to be back down in Taz soon. We're just playing it by ear at the moment with announcements and from the government and whatnot. As soon as we know what's going on, the next events in Taz, of course, will be announced. I hope you all enjoyed the one last month as well, which Tom Roth hosted. Tom's a top egg, lovely guy. Works at Lark Distillery these days, but used to work at the Vaults at the SMWS. So really knows his stuff. And a real life infinity bottle. Yeah, If you're wearing the Thanos glove and you click your fingers, the bottles just refill in the pack. That's the special feature. No, really, thank you everyone for coming along tonight. That was 5.72. A little bit of story about the distillery, a little bit about this spirit. It's a remarkable whiskey, and I think one you should possibly shortlist for your Christmas shopping. It is in Outturn at the moment. It's in Outturn. We haven't released Outturn yet, of course. It's just the publication. Outturn goes on sale Friday, 13th of November. Over the next 2 weeks leading up to that Friday, I'm going to be doing a live stream, I think almost every single night, previewing either a whiskey from it or some of the details of what's to come, including tomorrow night with Krishna, and we're going to talk about the art of pairing whiskey and chocolate. Thank you so much for tuning in again tonight, and I will love you or leave you. Tune in tomorrow night for Krishna and myself, Wednesday night for Roundtable, Thursday night for Outturn Preview, and Friday I'm hosting at .1s at the RAC. Hope you all have a wonderful evening, and I'll catch you all again soon. Cheers.